Let's see how we can become more like this example. Please take out the leading loyalty practice card. Okay, it looks like this, the leading loyalty practice card. All right? Look at the front of your leading loyalty practice card. People who earn the loyalty of others live by these 3 principles: empathy, responsibility, and generosity. So in the middle of this hexagon, 3 principles. The back of the room here on this side, we've got 3 charts. And the top of the list on each chart are the words representing the 3 principles: empathy, responsibility, and generosity. What I'd like you to do is go to the charts and think of a synonym for each of those words, a word that means the same thing, and write it up on the chart, okay? This is where you get up and go write. Ready, go. Facilitators, this is an exercise in synonyms where they're putting words down that mean the same thing as empathy, responsibility, and generosity. It really gets them thinking now about what these words mean to them. And then we're going to make a definition out of the words they put up there. It's a good exercise. Okay, so up on the boards now, the 3 principles: empathy, responsibility, and generosity. And you guys have done such a great job putting words up there that define this. I'd like a volunteer to take what's on the empathy chart and put those words into a sentence for me that defines empathy.
I can try.
Thank you.
Okay, so here goes.
Empathy is?
Empathy is someone that is understanding and caring, enjoys listening to people, and is a very compassionate, accommodable person. They like to live in the shoes of who they're working with by connecting them. And at the end of the day, that person's going to say, "You get me."
Beautiful, Gerardo. Let's give it up for Gerardo. Who'd like to take a crack at responsibility? Don't be shy. Thank you. Responsibility is?
Responsibility is someone who's accountable, does what's right, is committed and respectful to others, takes ownership of his or her results, is trustworthy, and is dedicated to themselves, the team, and the company.
Beautiful. Let's give it up for Orso. Volunteer for generosity. Thank you, Louisa.
A person, generosity, kindly puts others first by unconditionally giving and caring about others, and they receive an overflow or an outpouring of gratitude.
Beautiful. Give it up for Louisa. So we have, that was great, you guys. Nicely done. We have these 3 principles. What do they have to do with loyalty? Louisa.
Without any of those qualities, both to your team members and to your customers, you can't have that foundation to build loyalty.
So you see them as foundational to
Yes.
loyalty. I like that. I like that. How did Canyon demonstrate any or all of these 3 principles? Think about the video. What did Canyon do, Garen?
He was empathetic to the situation. He took it his own personal responsibility. So I need to be able to communicate with the person that I'm going to. So he put himself in their shoes, and he's like, okay, now I need to find a way to give it back to him.
Yeah. Do you think Canyon had ever been deaf?
No.
Probably not. But he was trying to imagine what it must be like, and somebody needs their windshield replaced. So a lot of the words you put himself in their shoes. Yeah. How was he responsible? Leticia.
He was responsible for ensuring that the customer felt comfortable with his services, and he took it above and beyond and did an excellent job.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I would look at it from being proactive.
That's kind of where I was going. I mean, He didn't call his boss and say, hey, I've got this person who's can't hear, what should I do? You know, he proactively said, wait a second, I've got a friend he put the thing together. I like to say with responsibility, he owned it. He owned it. Yes.
I think he also probably thought if I were in those shoes, how would I want someone to treat me?
Yeah.
And would I want someone to go the extra mile? So
Yeah.
he just thought about like what would be the most generous thing
What would
to
help?
do.
Yeah, perfect. And that was a perfect segue into generosity. What did he do that was generous? Did he give her something?
Well, he took of his time. I mean, he spent all this time in getting the videotaping his friend. I mean, that's above and beyond his hourly pay or whatever he
He
gets
was
paid.
generous with his time.
Yeah, time and money, yeah.
What else was he? By the way, what did that cost his company? What he did?
Nothing.
I think that Canyon was generous with his spirit.
Yes.
It was such a giving thing that he did. Cared, yeah. Empathy, responsibility, but he really gave of himself. That's what I got out of it. All right. Each of our loyalty principles, these three, have 2 loyalty practices. Okay? And we will be learning these loyalty practices in our huddles. The colors on the model correspond with the card colors. So your cards here, those 3 colors, they correspond with the colors on the model. Okay, does everybody get that?
Yeah.
On the back of the card are some guidelines for becoming loyalty leaders. All right? And we'll talk about those. So, could somebody for me read the back of the card on leading loyalty guidelines? Yes, thank you, Leah.
As a loyalty leader, your purpose is to model, teach, and reinforce the principles and practices that drive intense loyalty with your team and customers. Model. You consistently demonstrate by your example loyalty-building principles and practices. Teach. You consciously teach loyalty principles and practices in both group and one-to-one settings. Reinforce. You create systems, incentives, and processes that support people in their loyalty practices. You remove roadblocks to loyalty.
Thank you. So what is a loyalty leader? That's what we're talking about today. Anyone want to take a shot at a definition? What is a loyalty leader? Dennis.
I would say someone that demonstrates all these behaviors.
Beautiful. Someone who demonstrates those behaviors. Was Canyon a loyalty leader? Did he miss on any one of those 3?
Not at all.
Nailed them. He nailed them. Okay? What does it mean? Leah mentioned the word model, and Jessica had mentioned it earlier today. What does it mean to model loyalty principles and practices? Yes, Ursula.
You basically have to practice what you preach.
Yeah, perfect. You practice what you preach. And I think we've all seen that in our careers. You know the people who just talk the talk, but there are those who actually walk the talk. They do it. You know that that's them through and through. That's what modeling is. Modeling is not just mimicking. Modeling means it's you all the way through. In fact, it's the title of this little booklet. What we're talking about today is it's who you are. When you model, it's who you are. It's genuine. It goes all the way through. All right? Why is it important for us to teach each other the principles and practices that create loyalty? Why is it important for us to teach each other? Yes,
So
Leticia.
we can all be the promoters, you know?
Thank
to
you.
have that environment that we want to come into that is insightful.
That was beautifully said, so that we all can become promoters. And it will increase the kind of loyalty that you guys talked about today, like the example that Erica mentioned and the one that Louisa mentioned. The loyalty of the company. When everybody else is teaching each other, all the boats rise together and we all become loyal. Yes?
So one thing nice about being a promoter or teaching loyalty is when you have it, it doesn't cost the company anything. You mentioned that for Canyon, they didn't have to pay to get an interpreter. It was just something that he did, and it's free. It's a free service that a company gets when they have loyalty from employees.
Yeah. What you said is exactly right, Charles. Think about Canyon's boss when he heard about this? Do you think he yelled at Canyon for doing something that he wasn't supposed to do?
No.
He was thrilled. I think we all know people like that. These wonderful wows that you've mentioned that don't cost a whole heck of a lot can make a huge, huge difference, all right? Well, let's take stock of how we're doing personally with the loyalty principles and practices. Please turn to page 14 in your leader guide. And you're going to find there a self-check. And what I'd like you to do is go through there and rate yourself, all right? And I'd like you to use the tear out. I think there's a tear out right behind the one. Rate yourself. And what I'd like you to do is be honest, because nobody's going to see this, only you. Go through and read the questions and rate yourself. And here's how you do it. You rate yourself on a scale of 1 to 5. 5 means that's me exactly. 1 means that's not me at all. Or you might be somewhere in between. Nobody's going to see this but you, so be honest with yourself. Judge yourself. Ready, go. Facilitators, in this part, what they're doing is really doing a little bit of introspection. We've already learned a lot so far about loyalty and being a loyalty leader. Now they're doing some self-evaluation. Am I this kind of a person? Or there's a little bit of a gap between the person that I am and the person that I'd like to be. The reason for the tear out is that you're going to use this leader guide. You're not always going to be the one leading the huddle. And so you may pass the script to somebody else on your team to lead the guide. And you don't want them necessarily seeing how you rate yourself. When you finish rating yourself, add up your scores and see how you did using the scoring key on page 15. Are you satisfied with your scores? What kind of insights did you get from rating yourself? What kind of thoughts did you have? Yes.
You know, I rate myself at a 43. One of the questions, I connect quickly and easily with other people. I gave myself a 3, which I think that's an area I need to grow in.
Okay.
So as a leader, I think, I connect with the company really well. I connect with where I work. I need to work on connecting maybe more with my people. So
Great
it's a good
insight.
question.
So what Gerardo has done is he's identified the gap between where he is and where he'd like to be. That's what we're doing here. Any other insights? Yes, Garen.
I rated myself out of 40. I gave myself the listening, the good listener. I'm more of, let me tell you what you're going to do, and I'm not going to listen. I'm going to tell you.
Okay.
Instead of listening to what they have to say. 'Cause
Perfect.
I find that when you do listen, they have a lot of valuable input as well. So.
Yes, thank you. So you get where this is going, guys. You're evaluating yourself. There's a gap. And now we're going to make a commitment to improve on 1 or 2 items in the self-check. But we'll do that later. But this is where they both mention things they're going to do differently. Do you understand? All right? Each team member can take the self-check personally on the pages on 16 and 17 in this little booklet, Who You Are. It's who you are. So it's also in here. As you're teaching your teams, you can also have them take the self-check, all right? So thank you. That concludes the huddle. Now, as I told you, each small group is going to conduct this huddle again. The reason for this is to give you practice and increase your confidence in leading huddles. We won't show the Canyon video again, but otherwise, please follow the script on page 8 in your leader guide. So you're going to follow the script on page 8 in your leader guide. Now, I'd like everybody to put a finger in the air, close your eyes, and point to a table leader at your table. Open your eyes. Okay, very good. You have 10 minutes. I will be here to help as needed. At the end, I will ask you how it went. Are there any questions on what to do? Is everyone clear on what the assignment is?
Yes.
Great. Ready, go.
Great. Well, good morning, team. Welcome, and thank you for coming in. Today we're actually starting a new item. We're actually going to start weekly huddles. in which we're going to be discussing different ways of how to create loyalty with our customers. The first thing that we have today, and one thing that we're going to start with is leading with loyalty. Okay, can anyone share a story in which you have gained loyalty from a customer?
I can share.
Sure, go ahead.
Well, we had a call that came in, and a customer had lost an item in the venue, and it's been a couple of days, and I think there's a lost and found section that we have, but wasn't able to find the item for him. So what I said is that I will write down your information, and then we'll make sure that we go back through the venue, and we'll call you to follow up to see if we find anything. And so after going through every different department, we did track it down, and I was able to get it back to him, and it was something that was real valuable to him. So
Great. I'm sure that they were very excited to be able to get it back after a couple of days.
right.
Now, this huddle is about getting better at increasing the loyalty of our customers and also our loyalty to each other. Okay. Now, let's talk about why we should care about loyalty at all. Okay, our customers and our coworkers will fall into 3 different buckets. The least loyal people are going to be called detractors. Now, what experiences or belief creates detractors in our organization? Do you guys know?
I believe that people that can create detractors in our organization are perhaps staff members that are unhappy, that are not satisfied with their job performance, that perhaps don't like the work environment, don't like their supervisors. So these are people that are detractors because they're not necessarily going to be speaking in a positive light of their work environment or their team members or their supervisors.
Excellent answer. Excellent. Yes, you got it right on the head. Now, we also have passives. And passives are neither loyal or disloyal. Now, who are they? Do you guys have an idea who they are? What causes them to be passive?
I think a passive person might be someone who's indifferent to a product or a company or a service. So they're not out there promoting it. They're not saying, oh, we love it, you have to try it. Have you tried it? You should. And they're also not saying, don't try it, it's terrible. So you could lose them at any point, whether that be an employee passive or a customer passive.
Perfect idea. Now, and we also have the ones that we want, promoters. Promoters are the most loyal. Now, what is the benefit of having lots of promoters? Can anybody tell me?
I think the benefits of having promoters are people that are going to be kind of your cheerleaders, that are going to really talk positive about whether it's your product or your work environment. They're going to be recommending it, whether it's you need to buy this or this is a great work environment for you to come work at. So I think these are people that are constantly going to be sharing the positive experience, whether it's the product or environment, with their family members, friends, on social media, and just anybody that will lend an ear to it.
Anyone that will listen, right? Excellent. Yes. All right. Now, let's kind of look at an example. Let's kind of get our brains going,
Okay.
right? Now, let's just think of you're a customer dining at a restaurant and you find a hair in your soup. Now, depending on the loyalty to your restaurant, you will react differently. Now, can someone answer, how would you react if you're a detractor? How would a detractor respond?
I think a detractor, for lack of a better word, might go kind of berserk. They might put something on social media. They're going to tell their family and friends, don't ever go to this place, it's terrible. So they're going to do everything in their power to stop people from engaging in your organization or become a customer of yours.
-2 on Yelp.
Right.
All right. Now, how about a passive? How would a passive respond?
I think a passive person would respond kind of like, I guess, today was not a good day. It's, I didn't get the best service. But I just don't think that they would make a big deal about it. I don't think they would create a scene. I think they would just kind of be like, oh, I'm not going to leave a big tip, or, maybe I won't come back for a little while. But it's not someone that's really going to...
Not turned off completely. Mm-hmm. Great, excellent. How about a promoter?
Well, a promoter would be the opposite of the detractor, and they would do everything that they could in their power to let people know their experience was a great one, and they want others to have that same experience and that they would come back. So they would Yeah, they will be the sounding board of,
So even though they found it here, they'll be like, hey, you know what? They fixed it for me. They came back and they actually made
Right.
up for this issue. So definitely, that is definitely what we want to make sure that we hear.
Right.
Now, we know how customer loyalty benefits our organization, but what do you gain personally from increased customer loyalty? Do you guys know?
I think for one thing, one of the things that we gain, and I'm going to talk from an organization and a leader perspective, is that it can reduce your stress level when you have loyal customers or loyal staff. You have people that are engaged, that are doing their work, that are meeting productivity, and when all those things fall into place, it really does reduce your stress level as a leader because you have people that are dependable and loyal.
Exactly, and it lowers everyone's stress level as well, right?
That is correct.
Yes. Now let's talk about the process that we're going to use in order to increase the loyalty as a team. Okay. Now we do have a process, and as mentioned earlier, or one of the things that we have different cards that are going to help us out, and this is the agenda that we will follow with the loyalty huddle. Okay. We're going to be celebrating. Okay. We're going to be celebrating and sharing all of the loyalty success stories. Everything that anyone may have had experienced over the last week, we're going to be celebrating. We're going to make sure that it is out in front, that everyone knows about it. We're going to learn. We're going to discuss practice cards or a loyalty issue that may have been observed. Okay, we're going to do activities to be able to apply the principles and practices that we're learning. Okay, and we're going to also commit. We're going to commit to keep these practices on a daily basis, on a regular basis, in order to make sure that it just becomes second nature. Okay, we're going to be making commitments every week, okay, such as what would you do as an individual or as you in your team to increase customer loyalty. Okay. Now, once we set that commitment, it's not going to be a one and done. Okay, the week after, we're going to come back and we're going to follow up. We're going to have a follow-up on each one of those commitments in order to make sure that we are continuing with that, with that particular basis on it. Okay? Do you guys agree with that?
Sounds good.
All right. Now, can I have someone turn your cards and look at the loyalty discussion guidelines? And let's see, I have 5 of them. So can one of them one of you just read out?
I can start with the first one.
Okay.
So have a plan. Keep the discussion focused on loyalty. Have a clear outcome in mind. Check your intent. Are you being helpful or are you being hurtful?
I'll do the next one. Ask permission. Check your timing and their receptivity.
the next one is be direct. Declare your intent to be helpful. Focus on facts rather than personalities. And then use the practice cards to teach principles and practices.
Be open, ask open-ended questions, listen without interrupting, show that you are listening, and check your understanding.
So the last one is get involved or be committed. Express an opinion and have a stake in the outcome. Encourage commitments and offer to help.
Excellent. Now, we do have a lot of guidelines. We have just pretty clear and cut guidelines that we can definitely use on every situation. Now, which of these guidelines stands out to you and why?
I think for me, one of the guidelines that stands out is to listen without interrupting. I think from a leader perspective, anytime someone comes to me with either an issue or they want to staff something, in the middle of it, I just want to start shooting out ideas and, solutions to whatever it is that they bring me before they finish telling me their story or what they have in mind. So I think for me, it's just learning to not speak and to listen and allow myself to process before I respond.
And that's definitely a good starting point for all of us. I mean, I think that's one item that we, for the most part, we all kind of falter into. So we'll definitely be able to start with that. All right, now in order to be able to put a lot of this together, let's watch a video on loyalty. All right, now after we watch this video, okay, how do you think that this person had, the Kenyan, in the video react? How did Kenyan react, earn the loyalty of his customer in this video?
I think that Kenyan earn the loyalty of the customer because I really feel that he tried to make a connection with his customer that could not hear, and he really went out of his way and went above and beyond to make that connection, to show that providing great customer service was his top priority. And so I think that that is something that's displayed in the video.
Break out the importance of the customer, yes. Now, what do you think was the impact on the company when the video went online?
I think that what an impact on its reputation in a positive way, that it has these employees who are willing to go above and beyond, and that it's an organization that allows their employees to go above and beyond. So it's a neat balance, and I'm sure they reaped a lot of reward, both financially but also just image-wise.
Definitely creating an inclusive environment for everyone, definitely, customers and employees, right?
Yes.
All right. Now, let's looking at our next card, talking about leading loyalty. Okay, we do have different items on it. Okay. Now, what are this? What are these three principles so important to creating loyalty? What do you guys think?
Well, the three principles there are empathy, responsibility, and generosity. And to me, those just stand out it speaks about humanity and how we can just simply be human in what we do. And that's going to create a chain reaction.
Excellent.
And it starts with the empathy. It starts with the listening and connecting, making a human connection with individuals.
Excellent. Now, how did the Canyon video illustrate this principle?
I think that the Canyon video illustrated these principles because he showed empathy by trying to understand and kind of trying to put himself in the shoes of the customer that could not hear. I think he took responsibility by going above and beyond and kind of taking it in his own hands to, how can I relate? How can I help this individual? And he didn't ask for permission. He just went out and got his own friend to help do a video to make that connection. And I think the generosity tied in by the giving up of his time. I mean, I'm sure that, recruiting the friend and filming this video, whether it was a 5-minute video, 10-minute video, it may have taken a little bit longer to coordinate. And so I'm sure he didn't say, you need to pay me overtime or you need to pay me for this. So I think that he displayed generosity and giving of his own time.
Excellent. And you mentioned a few words, and actually I want to build up on what Leah was talking about. We do have 3 items: empathy, responsibility, and generosity. And actually within each, or alongside each one of those words, we do have different items. Empathy, we have connect and listen. Responsibility, we have discover and follow up. And with generosity, we have share and surprise. And we will actually be learning the 6 practices in our huddles. Okay, these are essential practices to creating loyalty in our customers. Okay, now let's turn over your card. Okay, we're going to actually look over at the loyalty guidance, leading loyalty guidance. Okay, as a loyalty leader, your purpose is to model, teach, and reinforce the principles and practices that drive intense loyalty with your team and customers. Can one of you guys read that first model?
I can read the first model. You consistently demonstrate by your example loyalty building principles and practices.
And teach. You consciously teach loyalty principles and practices in both group and one-to-one settings.
Reinforce. You create systems, incentives, and processes that support people in their loyalty practices. You remove roadblocks to loyalty.
Excellent. So these are items that we can all definitely practice on a daily basis, right? Now, what do you guys think is a loyalty leader?
I think a loyalty leader is someone who models the behavior we're talking about throughout the huddles in their regular environment or workplace, even personal life. And they model it in order for others to follow along. So you don't have to be a formal leader to be a loyalty leader if others are watching you.
Exactly. Now, building up on that. So what do you guys think what do you think it means to be a model loyalty principles and practices?
Well, it's that first word that's mentioned there. It's you. So it's up to you to set an example and to show how you are putting forth these principles and practices, and then it becomes a teaching tool from there.
Exactly, and you're talking about teaching tool. Now, why is it important for us to teach each other the principles and practices that create loyalty?
I think it's important because that is how we're going to continue to make improvements. And then when we think of the 3 spectrums of detractors, passive, and promoters, when we are teaching and modeling these principles, we can slowly start to move people perhaps from the passive to the promoter, and slowly start the detractor to maybe the passive and then the promoter. But it has to start with us modeling the behavior and kind of standing side to side with our team and our customers to, create that loyalty.
Becoming the catalyst for the change, right?
That is correct.
Excellent, great. All right, now we have one last item for today's huddle. Okay, we're going to have an activity that's called loyalty self-check. We may already have ways of measuring customer loyalty and satisfaction. Now, this self-check, however, is for you personally. Each of these questions relates to the principles and practices for creating greater employee and customer loyalty. Now, let's take stock of how well we apply these principles and practices. Now, on the loyalty self-check, you're going to rate yourself on a scale of 1 to 5. A 5 means that's me exactly, or 1 means that's not me at all. Okay. Nobody will ever see your answers, so be honest with yourselves. Now, when you finish, we're going to add up your scores, or you're going to add up your scores to see how well you did on the scoring key below. Okay. You're not going to share your scores, okay, but it's going to be something that's just for you.
Okay, guys, let's wrap it up. How did that go? You who led the huddles, comments, anyone actually, how did it go? Yes, Erica.
I think at the beginning it was a little bit easy because you're kind of celebrating, which was, something
That's the easy part.
To do. But then I think when you got into the teachable moment, it was, as a first time, a little bit confusing. Like, okay, what do we teach? How do we introduce this? And, just kind of getting the engagement.
Yeah, Erica's right. And what I noticed, everybody didn't go right to the script. And I should have been more clear on that. Here was your script. And I think people were a little scrambling to figure out, well, what am I supposed to do?
We're doing the practice.
You can use the card, but your script's right here. Huddle 1.
Yeah.
Remember, the bold letters tell you what to do, and then your script is in the not so bold. Yes.
So I think I like the flow. I like starting with the successes because it kind of breaks the tension, and then the teaching part. I think if we make it interactive and it's a good teaching moment. But I really, again, I like the commitments because it just flows. We're celebrating, we're teaching, and then based on what we're teaching, it flows right into what's your commitment for this week. How are you going to keep that going?
Yeah.
So the commitment piece is
And actually, this is pretty fun stuff to teach.
Yeah.
I mean, everybody gets it. It's pretty intuitive. And Huddle 1 teaching this is actually kind of fun to teach, and people get it. Any other observations? Yes, Jessica.
So I like the commitment piece of it because now I'm going to proactively look for opportunities in the coming week before our next huddle to actually practice loyalty.
And that's exactly what happens. It's top of mind for them and for you, and during the week, you're going to be thinking of that. And you'll be amazed at how opportunities will come your way to practice what we're teaching. If you'd never taught it, the opportunities would have come anyway, and you wouldn't have capitalized on it. Okay? Very good. So, what are some of the benefits you saw from having a huddle?
Different ideas. It's like you may not have thought of something that Jessica did. It's like, I never thought about doing that. Or
Garen, I love that you said that. Different ideas do come up. And that's one of the problems in management generally, is that the managers think they're supposed to have all the ideas. Best ideas will come from these huddles. Ursula.
I think in huddles also other people who are contributing are teaching and other people are learning. So you're having a lot of shared ideas and maybe you come up with a better strategy. And the strategy is not necessarily, it's the leader strategy, it's the team strategy. So then you're going to have a lot more accountability.
Exactly. When the whole team is planning the fight, they won't fight the plan.
I think the other piece is the sharing of success and what's going well.
Yeah.
Because
Why?
then it's important to celebrate and recognize, and so then it empowers.
It empowers, it validates. Great observation, Erica. Yes. Melissa.
I really like the fellowship that it's creating amongst everyone because you're all sharing your own personalities, your own ideas, and it's creating that closeness for that teamwork.
What a great word you just used. Fellowship. It really does do that. And you get this tremendous sense of community when that fellowship starts to happen. Well said.
Huddle number 1, leading loyalty, is the manager's first look at the huddle. The facilitator first conducts the huddle and then invites participants to conduct the huddle in their table teams. The Leading Loyalty Huddle addresses the 3 types of customers, the personal benefits of loyalty, the Leading Loyalty Guidelines, the Leading Loyalty Agenda, and the Loyalty Self-Check. So, Gordon, you are training me, I'm a manager, so you're training me to conduct these huddles. How do they work, and are they all the same?
Well, they all have the same agenda, and that's nice because throughout the day you hit those same 4 agenda points, but each huddle, of course, has different content. Each huddle focuses on a different principle or a different practice. One thing I love about the huddles is they all start with celebration, and the celebration brings lots of energy. And even when we break up into the different table teams or whatever, they also do the celebrating, and they like it, and they're all celebrating. And so it's a wonderful thing. And then after the celebration, we discuss the practice cards. So it's a wonderful thing.
In my opinion, we don't celebrate enough in life.
And we talk about that in the class.
Great, thank you.
And the manager receives enough cards for the whole team. So these cards here, everybody gets them. And that's a great thing. The cards, each card defines a principle or a practice. And then on the back, there's guidelines that tie right back to that.
So the managers get practice cards, and every participant or every team member
Exactly.
that works or who works for the manager gets the practice cards as well.
And that's a beautiful thing because when you're talking manager to employee, they all know what's on the card, both the manager and the employee. There's no surprises here. And it's a huge confidence builder for the employee. And we also have on these examples of counterfeits or opposites, which are very helpful in teaching the principle or the practice. And the cards give model language, which they really appreciate. They use it over and over, and then they get to where they really own the language and use their own words. But for a starter, it's a great thing to use. And they love them. They refer to them.
Well, and even if we know the principle or the idea, sometimes it's hard to find the words to start practicing what we want to start practicing.
Exactly.
Gordon, each manager gets a script to conduct these huddles?
They do. It's the leader guide. The script is their best friend, and I tell them that. Use the leader guide.
So put your name in it.
Yeah.
Make sure you don't lose it.
Put your name in it, and it's also what they will hand to somebody else when they teach the huddle. But it is very, very helpful.
Beautiful. Will you also share a little bit about the purpose of the loyalty self-check?
Sure. The loyalty self-check is a barometer for where they're at now. We do it at the beginning of the day, and they go through and they do a self-check. It's judge yourself. Nobody ever sees it. These are your answers. So we always tell them, be honest with yourself. Where are you on the loyalty spectrum? And they go through and do the self-check. And then after learning the process and teaching some huddles and learning the principles and some of the practices, they take the self-check again. Not to share it, not to see how well we've taught them or how they've learned, but rather to see how they've progressed themselves. What have they learned? What do they want to do differently in the future as a leading loyalty leader?
In your work sessions at the beginning, have people started to cry as they took their loyalty self-check for the first time?
I haven't seen them cry taking the self-check.
Okay.
But later in the day, when people start talking about some of the phenomenal customer loyalty experiences they've had or experienced with somebody on their team, yes, we have seen tears. And we've seen
of joy.
Well, yes, of just pure emotion. We've seen tears also with some of the videos. A note to facilitators, the loyalty self-check is very personal. And for that reason, yes, you teach it from the leader guide, and it's here, but also there's a copy that they could tear out so that when they pass this around to other people to teach the huddles, they're not seeing how they rated themselves. This is where you as a leader identify what you need to work on. Where are your gaps between where you are and where you want to be? So it's a tear out self-check. You do it at the beginning of the day, and then we do it again towards the end of the day. So after they've learned the principles and learned the practices, again, they can see where their gaps are and where do they want to work individually. Nobody ever sees this. It's super, super personal. But it's very instructive because you determine there what you want to do differently with the way you lead your people and interact with your customers.
That's a very powerful tool.
Yeah.
And this is true for the frontline associates too,
Exactly.
because they all get this book. And then here is a loyalty self-check for every frontline
Perfect.
associate. And so this is a personal book, so nobody sees what's put in here other than the person participating on the team.
So once you're up and rolling with the huddles, do they work well once you sort of let them loose, so to speak?
You mean during the day?
Yes.
Absolutely. In fact, as the day goes on, you'll find yourself as a facilitator saying, "Hey guys, it's time. Stop. Hello, I'm up here." A lot of times it's hard to get their attention again because they get into the huddles.
Oh, that's great. And then in the work session, while everybody's conducting their huddles, what is your role as a facilitator?
Well, first we have 3 roles. First, we set up the video or the audio because that's an integral part of each of the huddles. Then secondly, as a facilitator, I like to move from group to group and listen in and insist that they follow the script. Keep driving them back to the script in the leader guide. And then third, which is my favorite part, at the end of each huddle to conduct a debrief. What did you learn? What insights? What came up in your group? And that's when the real learning happens, is they share what they learned in each huddle.
I would imagine they would build on each other's insights and learnings and as they share the wealth
Exactly.
with each other. That's great. And guiding them back, so the first couple huddles, you find people tend to wing it, so your job is to coach them and guide them and insist that they follow the script. And after that, they seem to do better and lean on the research and what we've put together for them.
Yes, once they see how helpful this is, they're grateful for it, and they really start using it more and more.
Because it works.
It works.